That's the fancy version of God Bless America by B.B. Winans. We have some new versions of God Bless America here on 95.7 KLYN. We are live now. Let me double check. Yep, 20 seconds into our Facebook Live and YouTube Live channel, social media platform, moving it down the line, blah, 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 blah. Good morning, Las Vegas. Mark Size here, and we are going to be in the 17th chapter of Judges in just a few seconds. Want to let you know that prayer line is open till 8 o'clock this morning at 505-425-3717. If you're on Facebook, you see the number there. And we're getting ready to go into a troubling few chapters. I had to really do some digging when it came down to 17, 18, 19, 20. I don't know if I went much beyond. I was listening to beyond 20, but not much. But that's pretty much, going to close off the book of Judges. There's only 5 chapters here, so we're going to be covering it a little bit at a time, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. If the sound isn't okay, somebody's going to have to text me and tell me, like Pauline already texted me and let me know. But let's get into this screen right over here so you don't see my bald head from the top of the camera that's coming down and all that stuff. Judges chapter 17. Here's where we're at. We're finishing off the book. We have 5 more chapters left. Questions. Here's some of the stuff. We read these things. Well, we should say I read these things most of the time and expecting everything to be in chronological order. We look at Micah, and we're going to look at the Levite. We're going to look at different things that's going on, and you figure, well, we've gone through Joshua. From Joshua, we went to the different judges. Now we went through Gideon, and after Gideon, we saw a couple more. Then we went to Samson, and now, I guess, Micah. Well, it doesn't seem like if it's that easy. There's varying opinions out there of when this actually occurred. And there's a couple of hints that we're going to get into, probably into chapter 19 or so, that might kind of throw us off when it comes down to the timing of it all. But really, the timing doesn't matter that much. What I always try to do, and I'm probably one that is very guilty of majoring on the minors. So I always have to rein that back. I always have to say, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal whether this story was after Samson or before Samson, right after Joshua or later on? It really doesn't matter that much. But there's some crazy stuff going on in Israel in these chapters. And what I want to do first is I want to do something that I hardly ever do, is I want to go down and skip to just one verse. Because this is going to come up about 3 or 4 times in the next few chapters. And I think it really sets the tone for the rest of this book that we're studying verse by verse. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Now, let me start off by saying this again. I hardly ever skip into some other verse, and I feel very guilty, and I'm probably going to have to go to confession on Saturday to make it right. But in those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. I say that, and I go there first. I didn't say it, but I read it from the Bible to set the tone for the rest of the book. and it's going to repeat itself again, and we're going to have to understand is that this is a time in Israel, whether it's right after Joshua, whether it's right after Samson, where do we put this chronologically speaking? I'm not sure. But I can tell you, this is a weird time in Israel. There was a man, let's see how weird. To me, it's weird. To me, it's kind of like, really? Really? Okay, we're going to go there. There was a man from the mountains of Ephraim whose name was Micah. Now, there's going to be another Micah that's going to be showing up as one of the minor prophets. Minor because of the size, not minor because of the importance of what these guys say. You have your major prophets. You have Daniel, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, that they consider the major prophets. Sometimes not Daniel as much because his book isn't as big as the others, but then they call them the minor prophets. But this is a different guy. Not the same Micah, thank God. There was a man from Ephraim whose name was Micah. So let's look at our map here real quick, just for our own benefit to see where Ephraim was. Ephraim is right over there in the middle of Israel. Okay? You see Judah down at the bottom. That's always a good marker. And then you see Benjamin and Dan right above Judah. And then right above that is Ephraim. Okay, not everybody pronounces it that way, but just to give you an idea, we'll go back to the map later. Anyway, he was a man from the mountains of Ephraim whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and on which you put a curse, even saying it in my ears, here is the silver with me, I took it. Okay. So somebody's feeling a little guilty over here. Let's call it the conviction of the Holy Spirit, just so we can kind of keep it a little bit above water. This guy comes to his mom, named Micah, and he says, hey, Mom, remember those 1,100 shekels of silver that were stolen from you? The ones that you put a curse on? I even heard you. You even told me about the curse that you put on those who. He says, it was me, Mom. I took it. Here it is. So, I guess he doesn't want the curse. I would guess that he believes that there's a curse going along with it, and he doesn't want. So he says, I took it. Here it is. I'm giving it back to you. 1,100 shekels of silver that taken from you, on which you put a curse. Even say to my ears, here is the silver with me. I took it. Dang, is this guy got a drug problem or what? You know, it's like some of these homies that are still in from their grandmas at the first of the month when the check comes in. That's from your own mom, Micah. And his mother said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my son. Oh, bless you, my hito. It's we can talk a lot about a mother's love and how mom is going to always be there for you and always take care. Yeah, we talk. Anyway, mamas are mamas. So, when he had returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly dedicated the silver from my hand to the Lord for my son. So really, son, this silver and this situation that we have, it was really going to be yours anyway. I guess that's what he's saying there. I'm just hoping that's the way that everything's going. But when he had returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly dedicated the silver from my hand to the Lord Yahweh for my son to make a carved image and a molded image. Now, therefore, I will return it to you. Well, Hito, my boy, you can't do much wrong because you're my son. But really what I was going to do is I was going to give it to you anyway. And I was going to let you make an idol with it. Now, we know that there was a strict prohibition against carved images. These are not Philistines or Amalekites or Hittites. These are Hebrews underneath the covenant. But she had this silver saved up so that she could make a carved and a molded image for her son. Completely against the law. But remember that highlight scripture that we're getting into real quick. We'll get into it just in a minute or so, just in case you're just tuning in. Thus he returned the silver to his mother. The mother took 200 shekels of silver, gave them to the silversmith, and he made it into a carved image and a molded image, and they were in the house of Micah. So in Micah's house was two images, idols, okay? One of them was carved and the other one was molded, and the mom, out of the 1,200 or 1,100 shekels that she had, paid 200 of that to the silversmith so he could make these things, okay? The man Micah had a shrine and made an ephod and household idols, and he consecrated one of his sons who became his priest. So there's a religious bent here. You can say, well, what's the big deal? I mean, they're worshiping. Well, yeah, they're worshiping. Maybe it's an Easter and a Sunday and a Christmas thing, and one Sunday a month, or I don't know. All I'm trying to do is just trying to figure out what's going on with Micah, with his mom, these idols. And now he congregates one of his sons. He puts the ephod on his son and says, okay, now you're my priest. We're going to have church. We're going to have church here. You're going to be. So now, was his son a Levite? Because was his son a direct relation to Aaron? We know that he's not, because he's from Ephraim. Well, I guess the Levites could have been scattered around, and maybe Micah was part of that group, but it really doesn't tell us to it. And if he would have been doing that, he should have had even more information against carved and molded images. This is something that God detested. But let's go to verse 6 again. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. So, to me, I read verse 6, and we're going to hear it repeated a few times. Leadership. The leadership was the problem. Nobody's carrying the torch for Yahweh. So everyone is doing what is right in his own eyes. Well, we make it up as we go along. This is, in my estimation, let me say, in my humble estimation, this is going to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, when you do what is right in their own eyes. And I think this really sets the tone and explains a lot what's going on with Micah, his mother, his son, the carved images, the ephod that he makes, all of this activity that's going on. That's going to get even crazier. And it starts off in verse 7. Now, there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah. He was a Levite and was staying there. And a man departed from the city of Bethlehem. It said the man, not a man. The man. Which man? This young man from Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah. He was a Levite, was staying there. So we know this. We know this from reading former books, is that the tribe of Levi did not have a physical inheritance in Israel. Okay? Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, had been split up into two tribes to make the 12th tribe, really 13, but, depends. And the tribe of Levi were scattered around to the different other tribal allotments that were out there. So apparently this young Levite, this young man that was a Levite, was in the place of Judah, and he was staying there in Judah. The man departed, verse 8, from the city of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. And I'm going to keep on going to verse 6 again, over and over again. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. So the man departs from Bethlehem, looking for a place. Then he came to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah as he journeyed. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" He said, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm on my way to find a place to stay." Micah said to him, "Dwell with me. God, I got a place here. You can hang out with me over here. I mean, we got. Let's talk. I have a deal. I have a deal for you." Let's find out more after the weather report. I'm going to play the old rugged cross first. Change it someday for a crown. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. 30 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock, Elvis Presley singing the old rugged cross. Time for us to get into a weather report. Let's see. Today, a high around 61 with mostly sunny skies and south-southeast winds 6 to 15 miles per hour since it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Maybe some of you have off today and you can fix that door that's been squeaking or something around the house that you didn't do yesterday because you was watching football. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high around 57, windy with a northwest wind 9 to 21, gusts up to 30. And then on Wednesday, partly cloudy, high around 45, north wind 6 to 14 miles per hour. Shout out to our Facebook people right now. We're looking at Andrea and Tommy is on there, and Michelle and Stephen are also on there. And I don't know, I think they're in Michigan or someplace, who knows where, carrying the cross and helping out churches wherever they go, kind of following them on Facebook all the time. Anyway, that is your weather report. 18 degrees is the current temperature with a wind chill of 11. Let's go back here, though. And notice how I have highlighted verse 6. I want to read it 100 times. And so we have this Levite, okay, from living in Judah, departs from the city, goes to Ephraim, just cruising around looking for some self-appointed. We got so much self-appointed, everyone doing what's right in their own eyes. Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" He said, "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. I'm on my way to find a place to stay." Micah said to him, "Dwell with me and be a father and a priest to me, and I will give you 10 shekels of silver per year, a suit of clothes, and your sustenance." So the Levi went in. I mean, per diem, baby. He says, "Dude, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. I got a salary for you, and along with that comes some new clothes, and we give you room and board to go along with it. Just stay here. Look I got carved images already, and you can help my son who is the priest. And you'll be the priest now, but you can teach it. I don't know what's going on here." So the Levite went in. Then the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. So Micah consecrated the Levite. The young man became his priest and lived in the house of Micah. Hey, it's working out okay. Apparently Micah is a man of means, can afford to have his own personal priest there on the hand, and this guy, excuse me, this guy showed up just at the right place at the right time, and they made a connection, and now he's like one of his sons. You know, after reading, let's say Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and especially Deuteronomy, and then getting to a thing like this, I say, really, that's what we're doing? Okay. So we are doing what is right in our own eyes. There's no real leadership going on over here. Reminder about prayer line 425-3717 for you. Let's get on to this. So then Micah said, after he's consecrated the Levite, now I know that the Lord will be good to me since I have a Levite as a priest. So man, he's got his bases covered. Or does he? Verse 1, chapter 18. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Second time that it's going to tell us that. And in those days, the tribe of the Danites was seeking an inheritance for itself to dwell in. For until that day, their inheritance among the tribes of Israel had not fallen to them. Now, this verse might help us out a little bit on the timing, on that chronological aspect that we were talking about, but I don't know. Now, let's look at the tribe of Dan. Tribe of Dan, as we told you already, is right above Judah. So Ephraim here in the gray part, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, you can see on the map where Ephraim is at, and Dan is just to the west of it. Now, according to the scripture that we're looking at, the tribe of Dan had not been very successful in taking the land that God had given them. Okay, that's going to be added to that story, and that's what it says. For until that day, their inheritance among the tribes of Israel had not fallen to them. So that's just why some people say this could be after Joshua and the elders had passed away, they had not taken their land yet. Verse 2 says, so the children of Dan sent 5 men of their family from their territory, men of valor from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and search it. They said to them, go search the land. So they went to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. So we have had this Levite come up from Judah and coincidentally show up to Micah's house, who was looking for a priest and had idols there and everything. And then coming in from the other side, we have these spies coming in from Dan, and they show up at Micah's house. They went to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. While they were at the house of Micah, now understand, what are the spies doing from Dan? What are these 5 men doing? They need some territory. They're probably just wandering around the area, around where the land that God has given. They haven't been able to take the land yet. They haven't been able to overtake whoever it's the Hittites, the Hivites, the Amorites, the whoever's living in that part of, could have been the Philistines. I don't know. It hasn't told me yet. Moabites, let's just throw those guys in there because it's convenient, and it just came into my mind. But they haven't. They're just nomadic. They don't have a place. God had given them a place, and they don't have a place, and they're hanging around Ephraim. So they went to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. While they were at the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levites. And they turned aside and said to him, who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What do you have here? So either they knew the guy from Jerusalem, which to me is suspect, or maybe it was just the accent that he had, something about the way he talked. Sounds like a Beatles song, huh? Something about the way you. Yeah. While they were at the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. They turned aside and said to him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What do you have here?" He said to them, thus and so Micah did for me. He has hired me, and I have become his priest. So they said, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this? What do you have here?" He says, "I got a cush job, some brothers. I got myself I'm the priest of this household. I get myself some new threads every year. I got room and board." He says, "And I get a salary for doing almost a shekel a month. I getting to do what I'm doing. I got a cush job over here. Who brought you here? What are you doing in the place? What do you have here?" He said to them, "Thus and so Micah did for me. He has hired me. I have become his priest." So they said to him, "Please inquire of God, that we may know whether the journey on which we will go will be prosperous." So, hey, we got a priest, we got a Levite here. We got a Levite, and, let's have him inquire of God for us to see if what we're going to do, because we're of the tribe of Dan and we're still looking for a place. The priest said to them, "Go in peace. The presence of the Lord will be with you on your way." So he says, God's going to be with you, man. God's going to be with you. Guys, just keep on going. Do what you're doing. I feel the anointing upon the plans that you have. So the 5 men departed and went to Laish. And they saw the people there, how they dwelt safely in the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure. Now, we've talked a little bit, and we'll talk more about Tyre and Sidon. Tyre and Sidon were up in the northern part of Israel, right on the coast. Very, very prosperous people. Very prosperous. These people, apparently, in biblical days, Tyre and Sidon were areas where the ships came in and they offloaded and uploaded, all kind of like where we're having trouble on the west, all over the United States. We're having trouble with these ships coming in and them offloading the materials that are coming in from other countries and us sending export-import stuff going on. And that's Tyre, Sidon was very, very well known for that and very prosperous. But this is not Sidon. This is a town called Laish. And apparently some of the Sidonians had come from where they were to this area and kind of settled there. They saw the people who were there, how they dwelt safely in the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure. There were no rulers in the land who might put them to shame for anything. They were far from the Sidonians, and they had no ties with anyone. So the best that we can tell is that these families from Sidon had moved down lower on the coast, found themselves a nice little hidden place on the coast, and were living a nice little life, quiet and secure. No rulers in the land who might put them to shame for anything. So they had this, nice little place. They were doing okay. And the 5 spies from Dan come across this place. They were far from the Sidonians. They had no ties with it. Then the spies came back to their brethren at Zorah and Eshtal, and their brethren said to them, "What is your report?" So they said, "Arise, let us go up against them." We found a place, man. There's some Sidonians that are living down over there, and they're happy as could be. They're just, everything's going, they will never suspect us to come up against them, and they're living in our land. This is part of the allotment that Moses had given where the Sidonians are living in, what was the name of the place? It started with Laish. Okay, I thought it was an M, it's an L. They had started with, they were living in Laish. And the spies find out about them, and, they say, "Hey, let's go, arise, let us go up against them. For we have seen the land. Indeed, it is very good." Now, these guys have been looking for a place. would you do nothing? Do not hesitate to go and enter to possess the land. So the spies said, now's our time. We can't just talk about it. We just cannot pray about it. It's time to go. Do not hesitate to go and enter to possess the land. And when you go, you will come to a secure people and a large land. Dudes, this is what we've been looking for. We need to have what do they call it? A beachhead. We need a beachhead in the area. This is a perfect place, and we'll get these people, and we'll knock them around, slap them around a little bit, and chase them out, and we'll take their land. When you go, you'll come to a secure people. Verse 10, chapter 18. For God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything that is on the earth. It's a good place, man. And 600 men of the family of the Danites went from there, from Zorah and Eshtaol, armed with weapons of war. So they said, okay, these guys found a place for us, our 5 spies. They muster an army of 600 men and send them out there. Then they went up and encamped in Kirjath-jearim in Judah. Therefore they call that place Mahane Dan to this day. There it is west of Kirjath-jearim. And they passed from there to the mountains of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. So I guess they're kind of circling around of the best way that I can tell. If they go down to Judah, to Kirjath-jearim, on their way to Laish. And they end up at the house of Micah, 600 men. Then the 5 men who had gone out to spy the country of Laish answered and said to their brethren, do you know that there are in these houses an ephod, household idols, a carved image, and a molded image? Now therefore consider what you should do. So the 5 says, hey, we were here. We were here on our journey. And we came to this place, and you guys don't know this, but there's a Levite in there, and there's carved images and molded images, and there's an ephod. Dude, they got their whole little religious thing going on over here. What do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? So they turned aside there and came to the house of the young Levite man, to the house of Micah, and greeted him. And the 600 men, armed with their weapons of war, who were of the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. Now, if that's not intimidating, I don't know what is. Imagine 600 lowriders outside your front door. They got tats on their heads. They got tats on their arms. They 600 men armed with their weapons of war were the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. Then the 5 men who had gone out to spy the land went up. Entering there, they took the carved image, the ephod, the household idols, and the molded image. Remember, there's no king in Israel, and everybody's doing what is right in his own eyes. Now this is going to get weirder. That's all I can tell you. So that's where we're headed. I don't know how much of it we can cover today, but we'll get in chapter 19 probably in the last half hour. So they go up to the land, and they say, "Oh yeah, we want your carved image, we want your ephod, we want your household idols." We want the molded image. And the priest stood at the entrance of the gate with 600 men who were armed with weapons of war. When these went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household idols, and the molded image, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They said to him, "Be quiet, put your hand over your mouth, and come with us. Be a father and a priest to us. It's better for you to be a priest to the household of one man, or to be a priest to a tribe and a family of Israel." It's time for a little promotion. I mean, he's been youth pastor over there at Micah's house. And now it's time for a little promotion. And who is he to argue with the 5 spies who come back and there's 600 warriors that are outside the gate, and and now there's the deal saying, hey, you're just the priest of a house here. You're going to be the priest of a whole tribe, baby. We got you all covered up. So the priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod, the household idols, the carved image, and took his place among the people. Hey, dude, I have today is the day of my promotion. People doing what is right in their own eyes. I mean, and we go back to the beginning of the 17th chapter. This whole thing has been, the mom has 1,100 shekels or however amount it was. The son steals it. Well, who's the good guys and who's the bad guys? That's kind of the way we look at things sometimes. Who's the good guys and who's the bad? I guess you'll have to determine that. In my eyes, nobody's the good guys. There's no king in Israel. Everyone doing what's right in his own eyes. Spiritual confusion. There's just a ton of confusion going on, and nobody is going back to the source and saying, God, what is it that you want us to do? So Micah gets ripped off. The priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod, the household idols, the carved image. He took his place among the people. Then they turned and departed and put the little ones, the livestock, and the goods in front of them. I think they took him a little bit more from Micah than his Levite and his carved images, but not sure if that's what's saying over there. Nonetheless, Micah's left kind of in the dark there. He had a good little thing going on, Let's talk a little bit about this. Sometimes we are more interested in satisfying some type of a religious a hunger that we have in our soul than really having our spirit man fulfilled by following the precepts of God. We can go to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and we could get our little religious thing going on, and that's a lot of what's going on here. Everybody's to fault in my estimation over here, and everybody's doing what's right in their own eyes. And Micah had his little religious thing going on. It's idolatry, ladies and gentlemen. Idolatry is the flesh. Look at the works of the flesh, and look at the fruit of the Spirit. And you'll find out that, yes, these guys have idols. The unregenerated heart of a man can have his little religious thing going on and really not be connected to God. Seems like Micah with the Levite, started off with his son, and then Levite comes in. It sounded like he was pretty content. But I don't see a lot of God, the real power of the Holy Spirit. And anyway, that's kind of where what I see. Then they turned and departed, verse 21, put the little ones, the livestock, the goods in front of them. And if you want to defend Micah or the Danites or the Levite, get on Facebook and let me know what you think going on. I'd love to hear. What the heck do you think going on with this guy? Maybe you think I'm just a little too harsh on them. So they turn and depart. When they were a good away from the house of Micah, the men who were in the house near Micah's house gathered together and overtook the children of Dan. And they called out to the children of Dan, and they turned around and said to Micah, what ails you that you have gathered such a company? So Micah gets, his little army, a little sheriff's posse. You see them, kind of like on the Western riding, following after these guys, and they show up and they turn around and they tell them, hey, what ails you? I'd like to hear what the message says on what ails you. Let's see what it has for us. What your problems are. They shouted at them. The Danites turned around and said, so what's all this noise about? I think I could say it a little bit different way, and I probably will one of these days, but not this day. What ails you? What's your problem, dude? Hey, you got a problem? You got a problem? We take care of problems. So they turned around and said to Micah, what ails you that you have gathered such a company? So he said, you have taken away my gods, which I made. Where's Yahweh? Where's respect to the covenant? You know, the last time we were here, I highlighted which I made. These are my gods. I've made these gods. The Bible says that we were made in the image of God. And I think man has tried to make God in his image ever since then. We see a lot of people over there that are trying to make a God that is not the God of the Bible. We pick pieces of the God that we even in the Bible, we pick a little piece. Let me tell you what heresy is. Heresy is a truth taken to an extreme. Your God is a God of love. So is my God. But he's also a God of justice. He's a God of mercy. He's a God of grace. Yes, he is. But judgment will come. And if I am so out of balance when it comes to this God of love, when he comes to bring justice, see, we don't understand the big picture of what God is doing, not just in the world, but in all creation. Both heaven and earth, there's something going on, ladies and gentlemen, that is bigger than just what's going on in planet Earth. God is bringing justice to the angels that didn't align with Lucifer and his lies when they fell from heaven. And God is showing all creation. And part of what's going on earth is a little bit of this bigger picture that we see that's going on. And if you can't see that, and you have taken away my gods which I made. We have to know, we have to have a balanced revelation, an ongoing balanced revelation of who this God is. That's why I like going through the Bible verse by verse and chapter by chapter and getting a little bit here and a little bit there, another piece to the puzzle, and putting it in the right place. And we don't do it alone as one person. It's a community thing. It's a fellowship thing that we come together and know more about who this God is. He said, Micah comes with his little sheriff's posse up to the army of the Danites, the 600 men, and they tell him, "What's your problem, son? You're feeling a little feverish today? You're feeling a little sick?" So he said to him, "You're taking away my gods which I made, and the priest, and you have gone away. Now what more do I have? How can you say to me, what ails you? How dare you ask me if I got a fever or not? Huh? How dare you ask me if I'm delusional or not? You taken everything. You took my religious experience away from me." And I've tried to little bit put in context what I think the religious experience that Micah was all going in. And these Danites now, they got their priest and they got their ephod and they got their carved and their molded image, This is the way denominations start. Verse 12. Oh, did I say that out loud? And the children of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest angry men fall upon you and you lose your life with the life of all your household." Little warning, just a little warning out there. You sure you want to talk like this? You sure you want to keep this conversation going? Well, we'll keep it going after the top of the hour. We're listening to KLYNLP. It is a Monday morning, the 17th day of January. 18 degrees, wind chill at 11, humidity at 39%, barometric pressure at 29.5 inches. Let's check out our Facebook channel, see what's going on over there. I saw, let's see, Andrea and Tommy earlier. I saw Michelle and Stephen Hope. Good morning. Thank you, guys. Where are you guys at anyway now? Joe and Flo from Santa Fe, New Mexico on there. Corrine and Mike on there. Chana showed up. Good morning, good morning. I want to invite everyone to Cornerstone Church tonight at 6:30. Even those people who live in 60 miles and 90 miles away, man, be nice to see you guys. Have a great, powerful minister with us this week, Joshua Humphrey. Love to see you guys here. The children of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us." He says, "You better not be talking too loud there, Mr. Micah. You and those guys with you, I don't think you had 600 guys. I don't think you had 300 guys. I don't think you had 150 guys. Doesn't tell us. But he says, do not let your voice be heard amongst us." What's it telling them? Huh? You better keep it down, son. You know, oh, you better keep the trash talk down. Oh, yeah, don't be mad dogging me. Don't be looking at me like that. Do not let your voice be heard among us. Oh, let's go there. Thank you. Okay, let's get here first and say prayer line open till 8 o'clock this morning at 505-425-3717. Brothers and sisters, these are not easy chapters to teach from. But hey, we're going to verse by verse. We're going to hit it. We're going to try to come up with something, and we're going to hopefully leave you thinking and praying and contemplating, meditating on these things. And you know, you never know. You never know, God. But how many times have you heard a sermon on Micah and the Danites and the priest from Jerusalem? You know, I'll tell you what. Most people are going to just skip right over this. And I believe that's one of the values of verse by verse, chapter by chapter teaching, is you come across this, you don't try to make any real doctrine out of it. You try to pick out some stuff on the way through and keep on going to the book of Ruth and see what's there. Then the children of Dan went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. So they took the things Micah had made and the priest who had belonged to him and went to Laish to the people, quiet and secure, struck them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. There was no deliverer because it was far from Sidon, and they had no ties with anyone. So now the Danites come with all of the religious trappings that Micah had, and they're successful. And here's the problem with success. Not that I'm against success. I like success, just like the next guy. I love success. But we're way off base over here. We're way off of base. We're not even close to the railroad tracks. I'm talking about covenant. Talking about the God of the Bible. I'm talking about the way, the truth, and the life. That's what I'm talking. We're way off, but we're successful. And what we do many times is say, "Oh well, I overcame these people in Laish." And the last thing that happened is that we took these carved images and molded all this religious. So we must have a good religion going. We must have something good going. And you might be in your own boat. I'm talking about this a lot lately because I've seen it. I saw it. I saw it in the spirit. You might be in your own little boat, doing your own little thing, and things are working out pretty good for you. But are you prepared for the storms? Because sooner or later, The storms are going to come. The shaking is going to come to us all. And there's only one safe place. The safe place is the kingdom of God, according to the 12th chapter of the book of Hebrews. Everything that can be shaken, both in heaven and earth, are being shook. And as long as the waters are calm and we're in our own little rowboat and we kind of, maybe wave to some guy coming this way and another guy in his own row. But I tell you what, we need to be coming into the place of fellowship where the big ships are and come together, or we're not going to make it in these times. So Micah has his own little thing going on. And now his life gets rocked. He doesn't have a real defense for it. He doesn't have a real answer for what's going on with the children of Dan. So he's got to go back home. Now, the Danites go over to Laish and they take over the city. The Sidonians these people who were living in Laish were from Sidon, but they were too far away from Sidon. They didn't have a deliverer. There was no deliverer because it was far from Sidon. They had no ties with anyone. They're living in their own little rowboat, doing their own little thing. And maybe it was a little bit bigger than a rowboat. Maybe it was a yacht that they were living in, but they were not connected to the head. If we're not connected to the head, I don't see Micah, his mother, his son, the Levite, the Danites, the people from Laish. I don't see anybody connected to the head. And what's dangerous is that we can be successful in our own little religious thing going on over there. Some people fail the test of lack. Some people fail the test of much. There was no deliverer because it was far from Sidon, and they had no ties with anyone. It was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob, so they rebuilt the city and dwelt there. So the Danites now have established this beachhead that they've been looking for, which is probably one of the better things that could go on, but there was no king in Israel, and everybody was doing what was right in their own eyes. We've established that and continue to throw that out there. There's no deliverer. It was far from Sidon. It was in the valley. Nobody even knew about this place. These guys were living a nice, cush little life. If anybody was the innocent ones in the whole deal, I believe it was this Sidonians that had found this town in Laish. And now they're destroyed. They've been wiped off the face of the map. They called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan, their father, who was born to Israel. However, the name of the city was formerly Laish. So, hey, we've established a beachhead. The Danites have. They're named the city Dan after Dan, the father, who was a son of Israel. One of Jacob's 12 sons was Dan. And they got their little place. So they changed the name from Laish to Dan. Then the children of Dan set up for themselves the carved image. And Jonathan the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And Jonathan the son of Gershom. Who is Gershom? Great. Let's see what Hitchcock says. I don't want to go there. Let's go to Smith's. Gershom, the firstborn of Moses and Zipporah. And Jonathan, the son of Gershom. See, this is where people say, well, maybe it was way back even closer to Joshua's time, and because of this other thing that's going on. Anyway, Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. So they set up for themselves Micah's carved image, which he made all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. So everybody's happy now. I don't think Micah's real happy. The Levites happy. The Danites are happy. I mean, they got their own city named Dan and their own parcel of land named Dan. And oh my God. Oh my, is this cool or not? Asking you the question. Asking our Facebook people and our YouTube people that are out there. Is this cool or not? What do you guys think about it? Debbie, thank you for tuning in this morning. Hope you liked it yesterday. Verse 1, and it came to pass in those days. Now we go to the next chapter, chapter 19. And it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel. Third time that it's talked to us, reminding us that there's no king in Israel. It came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel that there was a certain Levite staying in the remote mountains of Ephraim. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. Now this is a whole different story. But this is what these chapters are doing. These chapters are showing us the spiritual temperature, the spiritual health of Israel. There's a virus going through the land, ladies and gentlemen. And there's only one cure for it. So now, we have a different story. This is not really dealing with Micah and his Levite and his... But anyway, it came to pass in those days there was no king in Israel. There was a certain Levite staying in the remote mountains of Ephraim. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. So, hey, about the same place to where Micah and his family was at is this Levite. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. Jokingly, I'm going to say maybe it was the sister of the Levite that had gone to Micah's house, but that's just to spice it up a little bit. But his concubine played the harlot against him, and went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there 4 whole months. So this Levite who's been staying in Ephraim in the mountains has himself a concubine. You have to, let's go there. Let's go there. Let's go there. Let's see what Webster tells us. A woman who cohabits with a man without the authority of a legal marriage. A woman kept for lewd purposes, a kept mistress. Okay, that's one definition. Let's see what Easton says. Denotes a female conjugally united to a man, but in a relation inferior to that of a wife. So I'll let you do your homework more on that. We've come against concubines many times in the chapters that we've been there. So he has this concubine. Okay? I don't understand it. Saul was going to have concubines. David was going to have concubines. Solomon was going to have more concubines. This was a common practice, which really shows us how they treated women in those days, how they esteemed women in those days. People that weren't in tune with what God was doing. You've come a long way, baby. Now it's time to bring it back to balance. But his concubine played the harlot against him and went away. So she's his live-in. She's his mistress. He probably has a wife. He probably has other concubines and other wives with us. That's another thing that I don't understand, but it's in the Bible. And the one thing that we can tell you about the Bible is it just tells you the story. It's not gonna color up the story for anybody and saying, oh yeah, well, there were no concubines. God's people didn't have concubines. All the other ones did. No, that's not what the Bible teaches. If it's good, they're going to say good. If it's bad, they're going to say it's bad. If it's ugly, they're going to say it's ugly. And we're in the ugly part here, in my estimation. His concubine played the harlot against him, went away to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and there was there for 4 whole months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back. So he goes over there, to speak kindly. Say, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. Come back home, speak kindly to bring her back, having a servant and a couple of donkeys with him. So she brought him into her father's house. When the father of the young woman saw him, he was glad to meet him. Oh, so you're the guy that she's been talking about. Come on in, man. Hang around. I got a bedroom for you. Now his father-in-law, the young woman's father, detained him, and he stayed with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. And it came to pass on the 4th day that they arose in the morning. He stood to depart. But the young woman's father to the son-in-law, refresh your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way. So they sat down, the two of them, ate and drank together. The young woman's father said to the man, please be content to stay all night, and let your heart be merry. So on the 4th day, he's ready to go back home and take his concubine with him. And the dad says, come on, let's sit down and have lunch. Let's have a drink or two. Let's have a little morsel of bread. Let's make a sandwich, and we'll talk about it. Before you know it, push comes to shove, and it's getting a little late. Why don't you stay another day? That's what happens. When the man stood to depart, his father-in-law urged him, and so he lodged there again. He rose early in the 5th morning to depart, but the young woman's father said, please refresh your heart. So they delayed until afternoon, and the both of them ate. Now, we can talk about resolve here. And I don't see a lot of resolve going on in the Levite. Is he a Levite? I don't see a lot of resolve. I guess we could stay another day. I'm guessing that the dad kept on bringing out another flask of wine. It was Chateauneuf du Pape, 1986. Hey, it was a good year. Hey, the guy's got a good wine cellar. Let's stay a little bit longer. Oh, tomorrow we'll leave, and then tomorrow, mañana. He must have been homie. Mañana. They delayed till the afternoon, and both of them ate. When the man stood to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him, look, the day is now drawing toward evening. Please spend the night. See, the day is coming to an end. Lodge here so that your heart may be merry. Tomorrow go your way early so that you may get home. It's always mañana, mañana, mañana. Let's have another little lunch and, go take a nap, and maybe you'll go, maybe tomorrow. Kind of reminds me of Samson. Samson knew what the problem was when Delilah kept on asking him the same question, because the same question that his wife had asked him earlier, what makes your, and they just didn't get it. This guy's not getting it either, or doesn't want to get it, which is probably usually the real thing, is we don't want to get it. However, the man was not willing to spend that night, so he rose and departed and came opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. With him were the 2 saddled donkeys. His concubine was also with him. So finally he breaks away. Finally he goes, and he goes to Jerusalem. Jebus, the Jebusites lived there. They were near Jebus, and the day was far spent, and the servant said to his master, come, please, let us turn aside into this city of the Jebusites and lodge in it. But his master said to him, we will not turn aside here into the city of foreigners who are not of the children of Israel. We will go on to Gibeah. So he said to his servant, come, let us draw near to one of these places and spend the night in Gibeah or in Ramah. So it's getting late. They're getting close to Jerusalem, and now they're in a place to where they say, can we stay? No, we don't want to stay over here. Okay, we're not going to go to Gibeah. Okay, that's a city of foreigners. They're not there. But there's a couple of towns close around here. One of them's name is Ramah. We'll go on to Gibeah or to Ramah. We're not going to stay here with the Jebusites. They passed by, went their way. The sun went down on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. They turned aside to go there into the lodge in Gibeah. When they went in, he sat down in the open square of the city, for no one would take him into his house to spend the night. Now the custom is that when a traveler came into a city, he would go into the middle of town, and somebody would come and invite him and say, hey, come and stay in my house. It was a hospitality. It was a way of brotherhood, of them saying, yeah, we'll take care of you. So he goes, sits down in the open square of the city. No one pays attention to the old man. To the man with his concubine. Just then, an old man came in from his work in the field at evening, who was also from the mountains of Ephraim, was staying in Gibeah, whereas the men of the place were Benjamites. And when he raised his eyes, he saw the traveler in the open square of the city, and the old man said, "Where are you going, and where do you come from?" So this man, who's, in that area of Gibeah, but he's from Ephraim, the same place where this dude is that's, I don't think he's even named yet. Where are you going? Where do you come from? So he said, we're passing from Bethlehem in Judah toward the remote mountains of Ephraim. I am from there. I went to Bethlehem in Judah. Now I'm going to the house of the Lord, but there is no one who will take me into his house, although we both have straw and fodder for our donkeys, bread and wine for myself, for your female servant, and for the young man who is with your servant. There is no lack of anything. So the old man says, "Hey, where are you going? What's up?" He said, "Well, nobody wants to take me in, even though I have my own supplies. I'm not looking for a free meal. I got enough for everybody that's here." The old man said, "Peace be with you, however. Let all your needs be my responsibility. Only do not spend the night in the open square." This kind of reminds me of Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember in the book of Genesis, remember when the two angels left Abraham's tent and they went in to check out what was really going on and send a report to heaven of what was going on? He said, we gotta tell, our CEO sent us over here to find out what's really going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. And they stood in the city square, and finally it was Lot's nephew. It was Lot, Abraham's nephew, who took them in Sodom and Gomorrah. And the old man said, "Peace be with you, however, let all your needs be my responsibility." He says, "I'll take care of you. Just don't spend the night here." The old man knew something. So he brought him into his house, gave fodder to the donkeys. They washed their feet, ate and drank. As they were enjoying themselves, suddenly certain men of the city, perverted men, surrounded the house and beat the door. They spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring out the man who came to your house, that we may know him carnally." Did I tell you this was weird stuff? In the book of Genesis, we say, Moses hadn't shown up yet. Aaron hadn't shown up yet. The Ark of the Covenant hadn't been established. The covenant wasn't there yet. Yeah. Well, there's after that. What are these guys saying? What are they saying? We want to have homosexual relationships with the man who came into your house, old man. That's exactly what they're saying. Bring out the man who came to your house, that we may know him carnally. And we can make all kinds of excuses for these type of people, but the Bible doesn't. The man said to the master of the house, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, "No, my brethren, I beg you, do not act so wickedly." Kind of like the same thing Lot did. "Seeing that this man has come into my house, do not commit this outrage." He said, "This guy's my guest, man. Come on, guys. Come on, neighbors. Look, here is my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out now. Humble them and do with them as you please, but to this man do not do such a vile thing." We look at that and our eyebrows raise right away and say, "Really? Really?" But I guess it was okay then. Not okay, but they did it anyway. But the men would not heed him, so the man took his concubine, brought her out to them, and they knew her and abused her all night until morning. And when the day began to break, they let her go. The woman came as the day was dawning, fell at the door of the man's house where her master was, till it was light. So True to form, they do whatever they want to do to the concubine, and she dies. Finally, we can talk. I could say all kinds of vile things right about now to explain this a little bit more, but I think we get the picture. When the master arose in the morning and opened his doors of the house and went in to go his way, there was the concubine fallen at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let us be going." But there was no answer. So the man lifted her onto the donkey. The man got up and went to his place. Now we're going to cut it off right there because we don't have enough time to really, we have enough time to finish the chapter real quick. But we're not going to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to leave it there. And I'm going to let you read that throughout today if you go and into the next chapter and kind of find out what's going on. We will resume there on tomorrow's program at 10 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. But I have to play a weather report.